welcome back to our program. You're watching Morning Thailand with Pheu and Govt. And of course, yesterday, biggest event as well. It seems like it's the court day for a lot of people, for sure, especially the politicians. Now, of course, apart from Kun Abhisit Vechachiwa, which Kun Pheu will talk about later on, Kun Phrampong Noparit, you might have heard of his name quite a bit.
The Pheu Thai spokesperson.
Exactly. And he used to be an actress as well. That's the thing. And a lot of actor. Sorry. Apologize. Now, of course, at this point, there's a loud noise coming out of the control room there. All right. So what happened was he, of course, used to be the Pheu Thai MP as well, not just a spokesperson. And along with his fellow, I would have to say. Yesterday, the appeals court actually have already handed down a sentence which his friends has appealed. Now, they say that Kun Phrampong Noparit, along with another Pheu Thai MP, has actually filed a lawsuit against, excuse me, against what they said is a unfair treatment of Kun Govt Udom Menasawat of Udon Thani MPs, along with the unfair treatment that Kun Phrampong Noparit received, because they say that the verdict that were given to them on the defamation lawsuit was actually not fair to them. But the problem was the defamation lawsuit was filed against them because they were actually, pretty much tarnishing the name of Kun Wasan Soi Pisut, which used to be the former
Constitutional Court President.
Exactly. And that was one of the biggest problems that create quite a bit of a stir. And of course, Kun Wasan filed a lawsuit against them. However, when the court handed down saying that they are actually, in fact, the guilty of this particular court's sentence, however, the preliminary court suspended the 1-year jail term for 2 years, and both of them appeals to the court saying that they're not guilty of it. However, at this point, the appeals court yesterday decided to hand down a verdict saying that they are guilty of defaming Kun Wasan in relations to the court's ruling on the dissolution case against the Democrat Party back in 2010. And they say that during that time, he was the president of the Constitutional Court. So the appeal court say that Kun Phrampong did not care whether his action would affect the judicial institution. And he even held a press conference at the time accusing the judge and disseminated the information around the kingdom, causing a lot of people to lack confidence in the Constitutional Court. So they say that the fact that they both are highly educated as well as holding political positions and still doing such act,
it's not appropriate.
Exactly. The appeals court decided to hand it down. Well, I would have to say hand it back that 1-year jail term. So at this point,
suspension, right?
Exactly. At this point, it seems like Pheu Thai Party might have to look for a new spokesperson, but who knows? There might be another interesting move later on coming from Kun Phrampong Noparit as well as Kun Govt Udom.
But I believe that Kun Phrampong and Kun Govt Udom had already submitted 150,000 baht worth of money of assets to seek their release on bail pending an appeal with the Supreme Court later on.
But like I said, who knows? I don't think they're going to go to jail. I mean, we haven't seen before where politicians actually have to go to jail. So it might be the first one. Who knows?
Some more highlights from yesterday talking about the Democrat Party. Former Prime Minister Abhisit Vechachiwa has attended a court trial for the first time to fight the charges related to the military crackdown that he had authorized back in the year 2010. The Department of Special Investigation had earlier charged him and his former deputy, Kun Suthep Suban, with murders for the deaths of some red shirt protesters and bystanders who have been reportedly killed by the military acting under his order during the turbulent times of April to May 2010, and the crackdown had killed over 90 people, most of them civilians, according to the court statement. Upon arriving at Ratchada Criminal Court in Bangkok yesterday at around 9 a.m., Kun Abhisit was greeted by a group of his supporters who handed him roses, while there were some relatives of the people who got killed in the 2010 crackdown as well, rallying on the other side of the court entrance. Some of them had scolded Kun Abhisit for allegedly causing their losses. The rival groups also briefly exchanged some war of words, but the police have prevented them from physically clashing with each other by placing metal barriers between the two groups, the one supporting Kun Abhisit and the one who were the relatives or family of the victims of the blackmail incident. Yesterday, there were a number of Democrat MPs accompanying Kun Abhisit to the court as well. However, Kun Suthep did not turn up at the court. In fact, some people said that expected him that he would not be going to the court, as he cited that he's now leading the anti-government protest, and also he's being charged with several criminal cases for his insurrection as well. Kun Suthep's lawyer yesterday has asked the court for a postponement of his appearance to January the 16th of next year. His request is deliberated by the prosecutor's office. Meanwhile, for Kun Abhisit, he has denied all the charges imposed on him by the Attorney General while insisting to the court judge on his innocence in performing his duty. That led the judges to set the next trial at the 24th of March 2014. The court had also set bail at 1.8 million baht, which Kun Abhisit met by putting up a house deed in Chonburi province, despite objection from the victim's relatives. However, the court ordered him to remain in Thailand until his trial starts again on March the 24th as a condition for his bail release. And after the court session was over, Kun Abhisit and his entourage quickly left the court building via the back exit, presumably to avoid meeting with large crowd of reporters outside, both Thai and foreign, who were waiting to interview him at the court entrance. So that was the update here on the case against the former Prime Minister. At that time, Kun Abhisit was the Prime Minister, and Kun Suthep Theersuban was the Deputy Prime Minister, and they were in charge of the CRES, Center for the Resolution of Emergency Situation. And at that time, there were protests of the red shirt demonstrators at Ratcha Prasong area before the crackdown happened.
It's very interesting, situation indeed, because obviously right now it's ongoing. It's almost like a repeat of 2010.
Yes.
Whatever we have seen, hopefully, is not going to be as bad. We lost 5 lives already, and I hope that's the end of it. All right, moving on to another interesting case yesterday, of course, just a little bit toward the late morning, about 10:30 a.m., there has been a report that the anti-government protesters,
Another group,
not the
one led by
PDRC, exactly. This particular group is where the technical college students actually gathered. So they call themselves the Network of Students and People for the Reform of Thailand. This particular group has proved to be quite a little bit more short-tempered, I would have to say, because due to the fact that there's a lot of youngsters in there. Now, they say that about 10:30 a.m. yesterday, around the Government House, they right now they have barbed wires and barricades just surrounded the Government House, make sure that it's protected. However, the group decided to approach the area led by Kun Nitithorn Lamlua, and what they did is they tried to climb over, as you can see there, climbing over the fence, and they cut down the barbed wires that actually surrounding it. And while this commotion was actually taking place, they say that the police actually using loudspeakers and trying to announce, requesting the protesters to stop what they're doing. And they say that at the time, around the Makawan Rangsan Bridge, the protesters also shoot one of those, stick gun, the rubber, what should we call it? Rubber string or something like that.
Yeah.
The rubber rings that you normally used, for tiding your bags and such. Well, they used that to actually shot the police inside the government house itself. It was quite a little bit of a commotion. However, it wasn't so bad. That's what I have to say. However, they say that they heard what they call the ping pong bomb. Two loud noises of ping pong bomb that it seems to be ongoing while that took place. And they say that in the meantime, they also cut the electricity inside the government house as well, while some of them actually used black plastic bag to cover the CCTV camera around it. So at that time, there's a lot of a commotion going on. A little bit after the noon, so about 12:30 p.m., that took place, and they say that an hour, a little bit after that, the core leader of this particular group said that they requested that all the police officers leave the government house within 1 hour.
Wow.
So they tried to seize it. However, later on, after there has been a little bit of a negotiation, finally the police actually contacted the core leader and said that requesting that the protesters make ways for all the police officers to leave the area, and 500 of the soldiers will be in their place. Because it seems like they're okay with soldiers, but they're not okay with policemen at this point. So that's created quite a bit of a problem as well. So at this point, military's soldiers are in place instead of troops of policemen. We have to admit at this point, policemen is not exactly the anti-government protesters' biggest fans. And it's proof as well in terms of Kun Suthep Tuksuban, where he requests to meet with the military top brass.
Yes.
Well, police officers, police chief is not in it, not on the list.
Now talking about that, regarding Kun Suthep's demand this week to meet with the military top brass, as you said, namely the Supreme Commander and the commanders of the Army, the Navy and the Air Force, together with the Commissioner General of the National Police, to elaborate the protest principles on political reform and to seek their recommendations, as Kun Suthep has claimed. Yesterday he gave a statement claiming that he has already received an affirmation from the Supreme Commander General Thanasak Patima Prakon, saying that now the military top brass are ready for a meeting, which is scheduled this Saturday, December the 14th at 3 p.m. Kun Suthep said that this would be an opportunity that would allow him to explain their stances and plan to reform the country. Kun Suthep even thanked the Supreme Commander, saying that, I thank the Supreme Commander and the armed force leaders for allowing PDRC leaders to represent the people and to directly clarify the will of the masses and to explain why they have risen up to fight for changes in the country instead of communicating with them through the media. Meanwhile, yesterday, the PDRC, led by Kun Suthep, had held a meeting with representatives of 7 private organizations at the Sukoson Hotel. The 7 private organizations include the Tourism Council of Thailand, the Thai Bankers Association, the Thai Chamber of Commerce, the Federation of Thai Industries, the Federation of Thai Capital Market Organizations, the Stock Exchange of Thailand, and the Thai Listed Companies Association. And this was the first group of people that the PDRC has met in order to explain its anti-government activities and to ask for their support. And some of the representatives of the 7 organizations asked Kun Suthep to make clear on the formation of the People's Council that he proposed, how it's going to work and how they will select the appointed Prime Minister. Kun Suthep told the delegates about the People's Council, and that was the first time that he unveiled more details about it. He said that the People's Council would contain 400 seats. 300 will be selected from occupation-based quota, and another 100 seats would be given to the experts selected by the PDRC themselves. And in order to establish this particular council, Kun Suthep told the representative that the acting Prime Minister Kun Yingluck Shinawatra will have to resign, paving the way for the Deputy House Speaker to ask His Majesty the King to appoint a new Prime Minister under Article 7 of the Constitution. But Kun Suthep did not mention who would be the royally appointed Prime Minister. He said the Premier would act as a transitional leader whose duty is to establish the People's Council. Kun Suthep did not even name any potential candidate for the job, but said that the member of the People's Council would not be registered to any political party and would not be taking part in politics within the next 5 years after that mission is done.
That's good.
To make sure that they would not be doing anything for their own benefits in the political arena. Kun Suthep promised that the benefits Thailand would receive will be quite a lot under the People's Council, such as the eradication effort of corruption and evil politicians. He warned that he will do everything he can to prevent the next election from taking place unless the government agree to establish the People's Council as they have demanded.
So at this point, I think a lot of people try to negotiate and try to find solution, a way out for the country, because obviously you can't have a deadlock. A lot of people are concerned about that particular part as well.
So two progresses yesterday, a talk with the 7 organizations and also a meeting scheduled with the military top brass for the negotiations.
So hopefully we're going to see some changes, that's for sure. However, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, another solution that the Democrat Party is trying to do is perhaps a potentially proposing new Democrat Party leader. So we're going to have to see whether or not that's going to be the case, and Kun Phai will give you a little bit about the updates of what the Prime Minister announcement is all about.
What they are trying to do. Stay with us.